Opens order and call to order, and we'll take a roll call. Lisa?
Okay. Ms. Dearden?
Here.
Mr. Sloan is absent at the moment. Mr. Pittuck?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Weissong? And we do have a quorum, Chair.
Okay, good. Citizen comment period. We don't have any citizens present, so we'll go ahead and move on from that. Approval of the minutes from the August 15th meeting. Did everyone get a chance to review them? Any
I
comments?
did, and I moved to approve.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Any comments? Okay, they're approved.
Question.
And move on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, treasurer, the statement was sent out to everybody. Lisa did that. Looks like there's only one deposit interest during the month of August. Ending balance was $487,000. CDs and checking $682,533.89. There was you got something from another thing from Lisa, which was the Virginia State Small Business Financing Authority, and they set up a check for $816.71. And I was mentioning to the chairman that there's a calculation here I can't vouch for, but I assume that someone is checks to make sure if it's we're due 37% of the solar project funds. That's in order. That was money coming to us from the Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. One other piece of business, Kurt, we talked about the investment strategies and what's available to us. I was a little late on that, but I did communicate with Lisa, and she kindly contacted Ms. Johnson at a future meeting. When I don't think we've arranged that yet.
It'll be in the next month or two.
Next month too. She's going to come and speak to us about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We
County Treasurer?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Johnson, County Treasurer, is going to come and speak to us and go over whatever those options are.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So,
Good. Report. Any questions? I also did go by the Bank of Essex and pick up not necessarily a statement, but a printout of all the activities since July, or ending, for the quarter ending the end of July, and took it to Lisa to get to the auditor. For July, August, September? Just the quarter that ended.
June 30th.
We had it through July, I think, so June, well, no, through August. It's through August, right? June, July, August. Yes.
Doesn't our fiscal year start July 1st?
I thought this statement was through 6/30/18
That's what I
is
thought
what the
too.
auditors wanted.
Because you would send a message to Lisa and I about.
The previous one that I had given you that I got picked up went through the end of May, so.
But it added a month, is what you're saying?
Yeah. They have what they need.
Excellent.
Can I ask a question? Just my general information. Does Neutral County have an internal audit staff? Or
No, the internal audit, we contract with an external audit. And they're done in
They just include EDA in there.
EDA amongst some others, EDA, social services, CSP, other petty cash funds that would go into those.
And do we pay for that?
I think you're under our, I don't think I think you're under the contract accounting.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to scheduled matters. An update on county ED staffing.
Sure. That's me.
It's you.
I just wanted to circle back with you on the APA recommendation you had last time we met. I did talk to Kelly, our HR manager, about that. She did get my email. I sent her an email, asked her, but she actually closed the first round before she got that email.
Okay.
But if we do open up for a second round,
Okay.
she said she would have no problem posting it. So thank you for letting us know
You're
about that. We just missed the vote. Just by a little bit.
fine.
But I can tell you that we had a lot of interest. We had 19 resumes come in just in a very short period of time. And we ended up doing a first round of interviews with 8 individuals. And then we shortlisted to 4 individuals and had a second round of interviews that we had this week. So we had 2 on Monday, and then we had 2 this afternoon. We feel like we had some really good candidates. There was a lot of really good experience that was brought to the table. There's one person that we may be making an offer to. And the other three, I would say, are sort of on the side, so it's possible we may go out. Again, and put this on the street. We did get, in the time frame, that was never, I don't want to say it was closed. It's still open on the street technically. It was closed at first when out for the interviews. Just wanted to clarify that. But we have received a few resumes since then, and I haven't looked at them yet, so I'm going to look at those, and we just want to make sure we have the best candidate for the right position. So, in the position that we're looking at for one of the individuals that we interviewed is for the existing business section of the ED coordinator. So we're still looking for kind of a new business coordinator. So, but yeah, we were pleasantly surprised with the caliber of resumes we got in. So just want to give you a quick update on that. And hopefully next month we have everything filled and we can let you know that. So we'll see.
Todd and I will greatly appreciate having some more support. He and I have been sort of sharing the duties, and I sat in on the second round interviews this week, so we've got some good interest. Hopefully we get some good folks and hit the ground running there.
So, do you want to give us, who's going to give us a review on the Chimera and the CoStar products?
I'm going to take that one. Todd and I are going to sort of pass these back and forth. Just over a year ago, Matthew presented to this board a product called CoStar and another product called Chimera Reports. The EDA was gracious in support of those products. And just to summarize what they are, they're basically two different things. The first thing is they give us some industry comparative data. And so when we're looking at either warehouse, office, retail, it helps us give some perspective on what's available in Goochland and what's available in the region. And the second piece it really does is tell you what the market rate is for space in different pieces of the region. Good data to have. I don't want to dispute the data because I think it is good. I will tell you, since Matthew's left and then both Todd and I have rolled up our sleeves to get into this a little bit more, I'm finding that some of the reports are not as accurate, at least for Goochland, as we would prefer. One of the things Todd and I, and he's going to give you a little bit of update on something called an inventory project update. We've been doing some manual inventory updates, and that's basically drive-bys, finding out what we have. What we have is not lining up with what's being reported. CoStar and Chimera is only as good as those that report the data into it. And it works, and I'll tell you, if we had a lot of product rolling through, or I was a broker trying to determine comparative costs kind of things, we don't own a lot of property ourselves. So I don't want to dismiss the value, but where we're at today is we're recommending that we suspend both of those products until we're better positioned with our own data.
They were quite expensive, weren't they?
They were, in fact,
$5,000 each.
the one is $5,300, and the other is $829. I'm sorry, $4,100.
Yeah.
And so I can't come to you in full sincerity and tell you what the benefit of continuing those products are until we get more of our own databases set up that we can do comparisons to. And so we're recommending to suspend those, a year from now when we're hopefully flying hard and we need better data sets. I also question really the need. And I didn't a year ago because the pitches that we sat through from them were pretty good, and it seemed like, oh, that would be great tools for us. If we owned a lot more property, not just property, but physical structures, I think there'd be some value. At this point, I think it's also data that we may be able to get in other ways without paying for it. And so our main focus really over the next 6 months and as we start up the new people is, one, we haven't done a lot of existing business visits to begin with, so why not get to know the people who own the building, what the product is they have, what their square footage rental. We can run Goochland data specific for our own benefit once we actually have that. As we get something, you'll hear about some more prospects when we get into closed here. without having that data ourselves, we're almost dead in the water. We get calls and folks that are eager to make a decision quickly. We don't have an updated database of all the warehouse right now, all the office right now. What we've had, and Matthew's defense, he was one guy, he was using the CoStar report. And so you had seen some charts that said we're down to, under 2,000 square foot of retail, we're down under here. I can't tell you with 100% certainty they're accurate just based on some of the work that Todd and I started to do. So until we have more confidence in our local data to even do comparison, we just recommend suspending that for right now.
So who are they relying on for the data?
They rely on owners and or brokers or representatives of the property to report into this regional database. And then,
Real estate brokers?
yes. And so I will tell you, a lot of the properties in Goochland are not brokered, they're private owners. And most of those private owners, unless they're big players in the market, they're not reporting in the tomorrow. They're some are putting a full rent sign in their window and taking their chances. Others use a broker or a real estate agent. And some have the luxury to just sit on some of their product. And so I think we probably learned more in a 3-hour drive around than we had documented. And some of that was our focus really wasn't on some of our existing inventory, it was on new product. And my hope is as the positions, the way we've structured them, we're going to have a lot more data and relationships than we ever had in a very short period of time. And so it's to our benefit to help people fill their vacancies. But if we don't know what their vacancies are, we can't help them fill it. I talked to a couple of people that have vacancies in the courthouse area this week. That's the first call they got from someone in the county ever. One guy said he met me at a breakfast once, and that's how I knew him, but no one else from the county had called him. And so I think in some ways we're learning some of our gaps very quickly. It's sort of, people don't tell you things sometimes, and it's sort of people tell me things about Greg Wolfrey they never would have told Greg Wolfrey 10 years ago now. But if you don't build relationships, some people don't feel comfortable telling you, and I think we're learning a lot pretty quick. So I can't justify the suggestion you spend $9,000–10,000 on a product right now that we can, with some rolling up the sleeves, that we can get better numbers for better benefit for us right now.
Will you cancel that for us?
Yeah, that's the next step. Actually, Lisa's going to help us with all that.
Thank you.
He did it yesterday.
Oh, did I?
No, I'm kidding.
She did ask that.
I did ask about the
Yes.
Well, we paid for a full year.
I was
Did
never
that
on
bring
board
us just
with
through
it.
July
Let's
1?
say on the record.
No.
It was in July or August.
I was gonna.
It was a 12-month period of time. When did it expire?
I can't tell you right on.
We're just gonna let it lapse, not renew.
I think that was.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, like one was through 8/19, so it just literally was about to expire. And so it probably within weeks or a month of
Okay, good.
I'm assuming that you have some reports that you can at least use as a reference for new people to start with, and as they kind of get their feet wet. And
I don't, and that's a good point, because we have the most recent data that was run July and August. Those numbers for Goochland are not going to change dramatically in the next 12 months.
Those numbers being accurate or not really, right?
Well, I don't believe they are accurate. We'll
Right.
be able to better tell you probably in 3 or 4 months.
Okay, yeah, no,
but it gives you a frame of reference to build on as you do the drive-bys or whatever you do.
maybe, yeah.
We found a little more space. We need to get to know some of the owners and understand things. But the challenge is someone calls and says, I need 10,000 square foot tomorrow. We have no idea where that is, and do you really need it tomorrow? But we have 4,000 here. Could that hold you for a year? And we have this guy build and spec. We really didn't have that level of detail that we should, or we need to have as we move forward. And so, if I'm going to, if we're really in a position where we see the value, and quite honestly, I'm having a hard time making suggestions to you to make any expenditure, quite honest, until we have the strategic plan locked down and you can align your expenditures with the plan. Unless something really came up that you said, hey, we really think your involvement in EDA has value, we would talk to you about that, but this isn't one of them.
All right, so are the two chamber issues, the expo and the partnership, are those? You wanna talk about
I got
that
one and Todd has one, so Todd.
Sure, I can start with the expo. Is everyone on the chamber emails? Okay, so this is probably just white noise then, if you've got their expo flyers, but I just want to let you know that the flyer has the date and the time. It's October 4th at starting at 5 o'clock for their expo. And what's that?
They're having it ready for me.
Yep. This is at Brady Saunders, and just letting you know that we have a booth. We purchased a booth from them, so we'll be manning the station for Houston County. And we would appreciate it if anybody could show up. That would be great. If any of you could show up and show support as well. We'll be there sitting with some chairs. And, we're going to try and have some trinkets and tchotchkes on the table for people. You know, we always have random stuff in public utilities and our environmental department. We always have lots of little things like that to put on the table, some pins and stuff like that. But anyway, we feel that it's very good for us to have that exposure since the chamber holds it. It would be very good for us to have a booth there. I think Matt has had one in the past, but we want to make sure that it's not just one person. We want to try and have it manned with a few people. So if you could make it, that would be great.
He already showed the video, just kind of moved back.
Oh, he had a video on the back? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't go last year. And, well, Matt was there, but he and I just walked around. We didn't set up a booth. If you've ever been to this, I will tell you there's as much value of networking amongst the vendors as there is people coming in. You also, come on, the wrong way. If you don't participate, that's as much of a black mark as anything, because people think you don't care. This is one of those ones that people set up shop knowing they're not going to get a million new people through, but it's one of those things that I think we need to have a presence at.
It's where you develop relationships.
Yeah. And so I think we're committed to setting up. We don't have a lot of collateral to hand away. We can show video on those kind of things. But I think it's as much as us being there, showing we care. We're here to hear from our business community, being a part of it, being a resource, and that's really why we're jumping in this time. I hope years out we will have better stuff to hand out and those kinds of things. But this is as much as us getting back into the game. I've heard more from our existing businesses in the past few months about, some told me, we didn't even know you had an economic development director. I've never met anybody from the county. And, Matthew's one guy. He couldn't be everywhere. And his focus was a lot on new business expansion. But I think the way we restructured is we're completely going to be intentional about trying to hit both. And so this event, if you come, and we welcome and appreciate your attendance, and the expectation is there's not as many people as you would hope come through, but encourage you to share with folks that you know, businesses, colleagues. It is a great opportunity to meet a lot of people in a 2-hour span. And so if someone's considering expansion, has a home business that they're looking to grow, wants to find vendors for particular, this is a really great place to come. And so I've always been surprised on how little the attendance has been, because the vendors themselves show up in forms. So the chamber does a good job pulling it together. I think they just need some help in getting this marketed and more people through the door. And so any help you can, and I think your physical presence, if you stop by you for a period of time and meet some people and say you're with the EDA, would go a long way.
They do have food and alcohol.
What is the food truck?
I'm not sure. But they have kids activities too. That's why it says business and community expo.
Yeah.
It's family friendly. They give away a lot of raffle stuff. Well, not give away, buy raffle tickets. All right, and then how about the chamber partnership?
The partnership side is, and you may know that EDA has been a member of the chamber and you've sponsored some events. This is really an expansion of maybe what we've done in the past and what we can do in the future. As you know, as we evaluate tourism, we're looking at a tourism website under our Parks and Rec umbrella. The chamber, if if you don't know, they actually host a community calendar right now. So one of the things we're talking to them about is either sharing the community calendar, co-promoting the community calendar, so it can become a tool that both of us can use, well, the community can use to plan events. We see a lot of duplication, and people are saying, well, we didn't know that they were having their event on this Saturday, and some people think that the chamber's calendar is just for business-oriented kinds of things. It's really not intended to be that. And we're talking about how can we, is it better served under a tourism website? Is it better served, or how can we promote? We're not trying to step on each other's toes in this process. At the end of the end goal is trying to figure out how we can leverage each other's resources, which is all the chamber members and all of our reach, to best position events for success and promotion. And so that's one of the things we're talking to the chamber about. The other piece is Todd Matthew used to serve on the chamber board. Todd will step in that role for us on behalf of the county. We're talking about a number of other things that we could potentially do with the chamber. And one I wanted to share with you today, and that I'm talking with the board of supervisors about this week. And so I'm welcoming your feedback in this process. One of the things we are talking to the chamber about is potentially co-locating our economic development department and the chamber under one roof, and creating sort of a Goochland Business Center concept. We actually, and I'll tell you, this is just a concept at this point. The board has not decided that they will even open to this. We've done all of our space need assessments for the county at this point, and there are two buildings that we're either going to surplus or repurpose for other uses. One of the buildings that sharing this concept with you and with the board this week is to take what was most recently the Free Clinics food pantry, the old bank. It was an academy building, and renovating it and co-locating the chamber and the county economic development office and creating a Goochland Business Center. We also use the be able to create training rooms and business training and development opportunities. Right now, the county fully owns the building. There's no overhead to the county. It's not on the tax
Is that the
roll.
old bank building that's next to it?
That's the building.
Yeah.
The library, is it the old Goochland
Library was there
Library?
at one time.
Yeah,
Right. Like, I
Oh,
think you're not thinking of
oh,
it's not the old bank.
No, it's the one that's down closer to
Yes.
where the chamber is.
correct.
Yeah, right next to
Next to-
Sheer Wild.
Well, it was a
Yeah.
bank at one time too, because there's still a bank vault in it.
Yeah, that was long.
And so it's across, sort of diagonal from the courthouse green. And so this is more of a concept at this point, and it would require more vetting. Some of it's a little selfish right now. Matthew's office was an office of one. I don't really have an office of two. We can put two people in there. It's just not going to be the most conducive place. The chamber is looking at their plans, and some space would serve them. This isn't a new concept. I've done this at other places, and it has actually allowed some synergies amongst one another. We filled gaps that they did. They allows for coverage a little better, as most of our staff are either in or out of the office. We can co-cover reception kinds of duties for people who walk in.
Sorry, I have a question. When you talk about economic development, because these new jobs have been created and they're under different kind of, it seems like the diagram seems a little spread out. Who exactly are you suggesting, who are you qualified as economic development now to be with the chamber if this should happen?
It would have been that in the old structure. It would
Right.
be these two positions in the
The
new
two,
structure.
okay, just the two new ones.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And if Todd would still be up here because he's over both.
Okay, and that was the question, kind of like, how is that going to happen? Right, thanks.
And so, again, this is just a concept that needs a lot of work, but sort of interested in initial takeaways or thoughts.
Would that be the same place that would house a potential tourism center?
Potentially. There's some other thoughts going around that. the chamber actually had some thoughts about developing something that would be a visitor center / chamber office. I think there's some questions, are we really to the point where we need a full-time visitor center for the county, and is in the courthouse the best location for that? So I say potentially because we haven't vetted it. There's also some other folks that are looking for space that have an interest in a tourism. Historical Society is also looking for some space that, and I'll just tell you, the building across the street that's next to the courthouse green, we're talking to the Historical Society about potentially locating in that building, and they would operate a visitor center for us as part of their support in operating there. So that gives us our history tourism piece. This expands our business piece. I tell you this because the board hasn't said they're okay with this or blessed it or anything. You're hearing it before the board members. So, but I would welcome some of your thoughts and perspectives to take back and share. If you think generally in concept that you're comfortable, you think it's a good idea, you have red flags, and we'll share those as well.
I think it's a great idea. And I was just saying, I think that it's also a great sales pitch for anyone who's applying to this job, not to have to be.
We love it here.
Yeah. Get away from all of the
You
craziness.
would hear more from businesses if they were in the business environment of the chamber. But I know that the chamber, because I was on the chamber board for a long time, and the Historical Society are both highly committed to that, having something like that happen.
And I think the need is there. It's just a question of have we gotten there yet to where we would actually fund a position to support it or in those kinds of ways. I'm not sure we are, but if we had offices that can serve that function, at least in an interim capacity to determine the demand and those kinds of things, I think we'll better be able to make that call in the long run. And if that's not the right place, we'll learn that too.
So when you've done this in the past, are there other elements that you see coming together in the future other than the tourism that you mentioned?
Yeah, actually, thank you. The concept, if you go to New Kent County right now and get off Route 106, the visitor center there, when I was there, we built that out. It's called New Kent County Visitor and Commerce Center. The EDA is located in there with their support staff, and the chamber has an office in there. All the chamber meetings are held at the business center. The other kinds of things that have synergies with them, there's and we would do it here too. That would be the place where we'd be hosting SCORE workshops. We'd be hosting small business administration trainings for business planning and their loan programs. They would all have the opportunity to use that space and it would get designated as the business center for the county. And so we would try to create as many synergies with those kinds of like opportunities there. Small business administration and SCORE, they don't need a full-time office, but they do need a place to practice and be consistent with hanging their shingle. And so those kinds of things would be held there. The conference room, actually, it's a little narrower than this, but would be able to hold probably 20 to 30 people comfortably for trainings. That would hold chamber board meetings and those kinds of things as well. And so we try to co-brand and co-locate as many people under that one roof as possible.
Are you trying to have a stronger or less weak relationship between the Historical Society and any kind of tourism? I mean, because I feel like you kind of do hang out there without.
They do. And I will tell you, while we've given money to the jail, we've given money to the renovation of the building, there's sort of been this, like, okay, and I gotta admit, Becky probably had a tighter relationship than you and I have been able to develop. In my time, I've just been pulled other places. I think the Historical Society, especially now, if we want to claim tourism as one of our focus areas, our relationship with the Historical Society will have to grow. That doesn't mean, in all cases, it means more funding or those kind of things. It just means we need to have a better synergy with how they can help us achieve our vision and vice versa. And so I think there's the group that's in with the Historical Society right now, I have found very amenable to wanting to do more. They just need to know what it is that they can do. The space, if you're familiar, they have right up the road, they actually have an old house, but the house is in really rough shape. They identified that they needed 2,200 square foot. The space that we have is 2,160. And so it's almost exactly what they need. We just put a new roof on it. And so I don't know where the board's going to come out on all of this. We like to think they're good concepts, but the board may say we'd rather put those back on the tax rolls and sell them. I understand that perspective. Right now, we're not collecting taxes from them, so it would be not necessarily a revenue loss. And I think the strategy is tied with our goals. So I think there's a case to be made there, but needs some more work. I will tell you there is one other project that ties into this that we didn't mention yet. If you've driven by the courthouse in the past 60 days, you'll notice there's a tent sitting in front of the courthouse, literally in front of the courthouse. The sheriff, and we don't publicize this much, but there's been some events occurring in the courthouse that have created a lot of safety concerns. Points where people get aggressive in the pews. We don't have a formal screening ability for security right now. And so they are using the tent to screen people before they're letting them into the courthouse. We are planning about 5 years from now to actually build a new courthouse with proper security. That being said, we don't have the luxury to use the tent for the next 5 years. The board has just agreed to, and we are actually going to be adding, if you're looking at the courthouse to the left, right now the Veterans Memorial is sitting there. We're actually moving the memorial. We worked with the vets to move the memorial across the walkway. We've worked with the Historical Society and got approval for this. We're actually going to build a screening room on the side of the courthouse. The current courthouse is also not ADA accessible, so the new screening room is going to create an ADA accessibility and enter the side of the courthouse. Once, 5 to 7 years from now, once we get the new courthouse built, we'll be able to vacate that for screening and use it as part of what we will create as sort of a living history center on the courthouse green. And so we're not making an investment that won't have longer term value. We still needed the ADA accessibility. Right now, the ADA accessibility is a ramp that the deputies drag out of the courthouse, put on the front steps, and push people up it. And there have been some guests of my size that it makes it very difficult to get into the courthouse. This will solve that, at least in the interim until we get the new courthouse built. All being said, I think there are synergies between the jail, the room we're adding, what we renovated, and the Historical Society right there with the courthouse green and walk that ties into our longer term tourism plan. And so
It makes sense, especially if you're running out of room here.
yeah, we had some plans in the long run, but when I say long run, about 12 years out from now, we would have moved. And this assumes that Goochland Elementary is built, and then some of our human services functions in this building can move to Goochland Elementary. That would have then freed up space for economic development. That's all fine, but if we had to put 2 people here, we could make it work.
Yeah, but not comfortable.
But I think this concept actually serves the community even better than just having them.
Good plan.
I like the idea.
So that's the change of purpose.
Thank you.
So you present to the board on that this week?
Yes, and we would, once this becomes a business center, we'd probably be talking to you about having your meetings at the business center and those kinds of things. And so more to come, but it's early in the concept.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda, update on the state APID program.
Sure. As you may know, Licking Hole Creek Craft Brewery has an APID grant, Hardywood as well. We want to let you know that the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services emailed us just a few weeks ago about Licking Hole Creek's Year 1 Annual Progress Report. So we forwarded this to Ms. Pumphrey. I just made one copy. It's just a simple 2-page report is all it is. Haven't passed this around, but just has some reporting criteria from Licking Hole Creek. So we reached out to Lisa and said, here's the reporting mechanism. We appreciate your help in filling in the information, and we're here to help you in any way possible to help fill this information and get it back to the VDA CS. So you're more welcome to take a peek at it, but it's on her lap right now.
I'm curious to see this one. As you know, when Licking Hole received the state APID grant, which is an upfront check to Licking Hole,
Thanks for the name.
agricultural forestry incentives.
Governor's Agriculture and Forestry Industries Development Fund.
Hey, there we go. I didn't want to say development, but I thought it was development.
By
Thank you.
kind or mention.
And I think Licking Hole was 250, and we agreed to do a tax incentive 250 match to it, but ours is paid in arrears where they paid theirs up front. Licking Hole, last time I spoke with Lisa, she has shared that they've ordered some equipment that has a long lead time, but this report requires the job requirements to be reported and also some of the capital investment stuff to be reported. Physically, we're not seeing any of it. So I'm really, we sent this to Lisa, she hasn't confirmed whether she even received it.
So that's not a completed report?
No, that's just empty.
She has until October 1 to get it completed.
Yeah.
So we'll be monitoring this. The good news for the county is our piece never triggered. We will never be out of funds. Bad news is if, and I have to believe right now they're still intending to meet the obligations that they signed their grants for. They have multiple years, so she can report this is in progress, not here. The jobs won't be created until we finish the project, and that's all legitimate the way this works. But it will give us an indication of the pace that they're on. If in fact they've done some of these kinds of things, this is the first one she has to report.
And when did she receive this?
We forwarded it to her, just a few days after we got it, or maybe the same day. We got that on September 7th, so it's only been 2 weeks. So
We haven't heard anything from them.
we'll ping her again just to make sure, because we want to make sure it's done by October 1st. So.
This is consistent with, if you recall what Todd shared with you last month of all the programs that we're monitoring. We do this on your behalf. We wanted to share these. I'm not sure we have to tell you every time there's a reporting requirement, but I think especially as we're all learning this all over again, it's good that you know that we are doing this and making sure that the people that are receiving these grants are meeting their requirements. Hardywood's not had an issue. They do have another report due October 1 as well.
That's right.
But this is the first time Lisa's Licking Hole being required to submit.
And we've reached out to Hardywood as well in the same fashion, just saying, here's the report, if you need help from them, we're happy to help as best we can. They have their information, we don't, so when we say help, we can try to help, but they know what they have. They know how many employees they've hired and what capital they've installed, so. Yeah, actually, Eric McKay did reply to me just the other day. He said his office was on it, so,
Find
yeah.
out whatever happened to Intrepid, they were looking for, or doing some around.
Thanks, Tom, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Initial conversation. Anything else on APID? Those are the only two APID grant programs right now.
That's right.
How about the inventory project update?
As Mr. Badesky alluded to, we hopped in the car a few weeks ago and just drove around the courthouse. We didn't drive everywhere we wanted to, but we drove around the courthouse, Crucial Industrial Complex, near Rockville Park, and just tried to take some inventory of what we saw. And we started a database. I did make copies, and I mean, I'm more than happy to pass this around. But this is really high level. Lots of blanks still need to be filled in. But this is really, we're excited about this because this is our first attempt to create a database of what we have. So it really, it has some square feet on there, something for lease, is it for sale, the address, maybe a little bit more information, like if something's for lease, and we just say it's the Food Line building or somewhere else, Bella Cecilia's complex, something that we all know where it is. The company's names that's advertised for it, we're seeing a lot of names over and over and over, so we feel very comfortable that we can just call one individual and probably get 6 or 7 listings. So we feel very comfortable with that. So a lot of great information is coming out of this. For example, Scott Gazer, he's got a lot of property in East End County. He's got his own building on Mannequin Road. Colliers International, Porter Realty. I mean, these are all names of companies we just see on the side of the road anyway. But I would say this is early stages. But this is really what we want to get to, is having this master database to help us understand what we have, what real estate's out there, what blank land is out there, what buildings are empty, that type of thing, to try and connect any business owner that wants to move to the county with this inventory. Because as Mr. Bodesky said, we got that call from, and I mentioned at the last meeting, from Louisa County, Mr. Wade, their economic development director, called us and said, "You have 10,000 square feet of something." It was, I don't know. But pulling this up, we can quickly sort by square feet because it's in the spreadsheet. You can sort by it, find what you got, and you have the address. It's copy and paste and send it to them. And they needed an answer on that one in 45 days, and it's been well over 45 days now. It's been 60 days, but and we haven't heard anything from him since then. But it's nice to have something like this.
Are you going to add like nearby businesses also on the database, like within your asking?
Oh, so you mean if, like at Bella Cecilia, if there's something, a space open, just say Bella Cecilia's next to it or something like that?
Well, or yeah, I don't know if you're doing any kind of industry like linkage kind of thing physically.
That's sort of the next iteration of this, because
That would be helpful, I think.
if we're gonna, our goal is to ultimately do existing business visits and make sure we hit everybody on some cycle. We have to create that database to do so.
Okay.
And so we have a business license database that we can pull from the Commissioner of Revenue's office. The one thing, I had to call a few districts this week to help out one of the prospects. The database is one part of it. It's the outreach that we do. Some of them, I told you earlier, that no one's ever talked to me, but others, we're approaching. We're not your broker, but we are here to help direct people to you or your broker. Most of the people I spoke with were owners, but I think they're really appreciative. And so I sense the same as we get through this project, as we hit the existing business database. The chamber has a lot of members, but there's a substantial number of businesses that are not chamber members. So we want to, I think we'll be able to get the extra linkage with the chamber and hit the ones that are non-chamber members. We also have a substantial number of home-based businesses in Goochland. Those are folks we want to know that, we're an asset to you or a resource to you, at least as you decide to grow your business, and we want you to keep your growth here, not elsewhere. And so some of these tools we're talking about are almost rudimentary projects that we just didn't have. And so it's just going to take us a little while to build that foundation of these back up. We may have had them at one time, it's just at this point we don't have access. So. I'm doing the next one.
I have the tax incentive program criteria.
This is a little broader than tax incentive, but I'll start with the tax incentive. Over the years, and when I say tax incentive, it's actually tax increment incentive. We've come to you on a number of projects for this. The one that's pending, we mentioned about the hotel. We're still working with Mr. Hotel to get information from him, but the board has agreed to support that. And generally, these have been board-supported tax rebate programs that someone would pay in and a certain amount would be rebated on the back end. We have not had a defined criteria for who qualifies for that in the some of them were, we wanted to incentivize the first hotel or the first thing in this park, or we're going to use this to match the governor's incentive fund we did for Hardywood. There's been some logic of when we've used them. We're just not codified into a program. And when folks are coming to us, like last week, we had and we learned it was a smaller business, but the first question they say is, what programs or incentives do you have as a county? They don't always mean that they want money. And I mean, everybody would like money, but the first thing is look, we have this liaison program where we're going to help you through all the processes to get your business up and running in the county. People don't know we have it. So what I'm talking here is we're in the process, and we will be bringing this back to you for your consideration and feedback, is as we develop out these programs and or incentives, it's critical, and this is why, and I don't want to get into the loan program, but when folks are talking with us, they want to know what you have in the process. And so we're in the process now of better defining what that tax incentive rebate program would look like. What's the threshold? How much capital investment do you have to have? How many jobs are you creating where you even qualify? The one we had come this week, he came in, he was gonna lease a space somewhere, start a business, and he said, what's your incentives? When you really drill down into it, it wasn't so much what's your incentives, it was, what can you do to help me get started? And this guy is actually now coming, I'll tell you more details in close, but he's now coming to the county. It wasn't a matter of how much cash you're giving me, it was what can you do to help me? And so we're trying to create both the criteria that the board and then potentially EDA would support on certain programs. And then we're really trying to create what are the value adds that we provide to someone wanting to locate here that are maybe more staff driven. And then what I think this is going to better do for us, especially as we build out a strategic plan, it will help us identify our gaps. The businesses are asking for X, Y, and Z. We don't provide that as a staff. It doesn't qualify for this criteria. So EDA, these are areas we can start talking to you about. This is an area where you may be of real value to certain people in the business community, and we're learning that the real need is this. I don't think we can do a great job today quantifying it. And so once we have the criteria for what it is we do, and then when we work more with these folks, I think we'll really find the gaps a little better. And the other project we shared with you that's still in progress is our learning from the other EDAs. That's actually been a great project because as we've talked to some people, we're learning, well, we started this and this was the pitfalls and how this blew up. When we bring that back to you, I think that'll help some context on that as well. But we're probably, honestly, Todd and I were probably overly ambitious thinking we were going to get more of that done by this month than we did. By the time we got interviews into it, our day-to-day jobs, we're going to talk to you about the strategic plan here, but it's taken us a little longer than we all would like to get some of this product done. Once we get the staff in place, we're going to be able to run a lot better than we can do right now. Because it is an add to what Todd and I are doing. We really learned how much we missed Matthew and the little things he did that just take time. And so once we get the staff going, it's going to be a good place. So more to come on that. It's not going to just be adopted and handed to you. It's going to be brought to you for consultation and feedback. And then some of it will go to the board for their feedback as well. And so I look forward to sharing that with you in the months to come.
For the last item on the strategic plan, is that supposed to say EDA survey?
Yes. Thank you. We all looked at it and didn't get
So, I thought you said you had that one.
Oh, I do have it. I'm sorry. Thank you. I sort of just gave you
Cover it.
We're still committed to bringing back the product for you that will go to both you and the board for adoption. I'm probably about 60 days behind where we wanted to be right now. We're still intending to bring the new business piece, the existing business piece, and the tourism piece. All of that will come to both this board and the board of supervisors, and hopefully codify after the first of the year. That's also, it's going to outline what the staff role, what the board's role is, what the EDA's role is. If and when we can identify if there's financial commitments or timeframes, we're going to identify both of those. I envision that we're going to probably have a really robust 24 to 36 month plan with a longer term vision. And so we're bringing that to you. Again, it's not to be imposed on you, but to be a talking point to build from. And once we get your feedback and the board's feedback, we'll codify those after the first of the year. And I really think as we start talking about some of these needs that we're learning up from the business that we bring back, you can say, you know what, that's consistent with our new business recruitment program, and let's build a program around that. And so I really, my hope by showing all this to you guys is you can see a framework that's coming to you that you haven't had in the past. And quite honestly, not just you, the county. So as we do this together, there will be times when I'll come in to you and say, you know what, EDA, I really think this isn't something that is as appropriate for the county to do, or we could do in partnership, and this aligns with one of our strategic plan areas, and this is an appropriate thing for you to consider taking on. I know you know I'm biased towards programs, so every time we create something, we be some level of structure of equitability and those kinds of things. But I know the board wants to see some of that, and I really think our prospects want to see some of that. And so, again, we're here to help support. If it's something that you want to do as a program, we're here to help support that on your side and the county side. But the end goal is to make sure they're working in tandem towards something collective. So the EDA survey, some of you guys gave us some good feedback on how to improve that tool, and we'll be using that. Already started to talk to some of the folks, so hopefully in the months to come we'll get through that. They've actually been really fruitful conversations. Some of the ones that I've had with talked to Hanover and some others. There's things that I've done with success elsewhere that I was going to bring back to you and share. That they're saying, you know what, when we did it, we didn't have that success with it. Here's what we found as pitfalls, things that I didn't in my own experience with. So I think it's good to learn from some of these kind of things. When I say that, it's anything from loan programs to incentive programs to committees they've established and the format they put them in. So they're really good conversations.
And they've been open to talking to you?
They're open to talking to us one-on-one behind doors. If we would invite them into a meeting like this, it would be very difficult. And so, and I've had some more of these conversations in the circles that I've been with some of the folks. And I would say one-on-one, we're very collegial and sharing things like this. We all talk about, oh, we love regional cooperation. At the end of the day, I want the business to groups and not the hamburgers. And so, but from a programmatic standpoint, pretty collegial. And so I think we're going to get some good information to be able to share back with you and at least give you just some perspective. Doesn't mean you have to do what anyone else is doing. You can carve your own path, but at least to give you some idea of how other communities are engaging with their EDA and county. Great.
All right, we have no bills to be paid. Any other business? I would just like to say that I am terribly sorry that I missed the legislative luncheon. I was kind of disappointed that I wasn't able to that. Can you just give us an update on that?
Certainly. I will tell you, the legislative luncheon, if you haven't had a chance to come before, please, and your schedule allows in the future, it is a good opportunity to get some face time with the school board, our board, constitutional officers, and our delegation. I think we have two more, they're not even freshmen anymore. John McGuire is going into his second year, and Senator Peaks is as well. And obviously, Lee Ware has been around for a while. They're good sessions where we can be sort of frank, and they'll tell us if they think we have a position that they can support or not support. They also give us updates on things that they think they're going to be facing in the upcoming year and summarize the prior year. And so I find them very good conversations. If we wait until we get into legislative session to build relationships with them, it's too late. In those 2.5 hours we spent, it's good to have face time. There will be, and may have even been in the past, but I hope that there will be opportunities when there are things that negatively impact local jurisdictions' economic development in the future. There may be a time we're calling on you to assist us at the General Assembly and talk, or even at least calling on behalf of the EDA and taking certain positions. There haven't been too many of those, I got to say, in the past 2 years, but in the prior years, there have been some things that I've seen go through the General Assembly that really weren't business friendly to localities, or shifted cost burdens and mandates from the state down to the locality. And there's a whole myriad of those. But I think it's good. You guys have the ability that I don't, or even our board doesn't, from a lobbying standpoint. You can express positions and this kind of thing on bills that we sometimes have to stay a little more neutral on. And so I can't think of one that's come up in the past couple of years that I've been with Goochland, but there will be a time where that's important. And as you get to know those legislators, it's good to know them by name and face and let them know you. I think it's also good that they know that we have an active EDA that can support your positions and those kinds of things. So
Is that an annual meeting?
it is, and in the future, we'll even do a better job of, as soon as we get that set, we'll make, as you can imagine, just trying to get the school board and the board of supervisors and the delegates and senators together. But as soon as we get that date, we'll give it to you as much advance notice as we
Because I
can.
didn't really see anything on the calendar.
I did, and you forwarded to me, but I do not know how I missed that meeting.
Yeah, there were, I think, 3 notifications.
Well,
Yeah.
really, I saw
Like,
one,
bad
that was
timing.
fairly close to
Yes.
that date.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah, one was when we first did it, and there was a middle one, and then I think Mr. John Wright did 8:44 that morning and pushed it out. I recall the time.
you do.
So Lisa's pretty good by getting that stuff out, and we'll continue to try. The date inevitably is not perfect for everybody, life gets in the way sometimes. But we can certainly do it.
Okay, I did also want to give you an update. I talked to Britta yesterday about the Davies building. They still do not have a lease. Apparently, it's been on 90 days almost, and they're just trying to get the realtor to extend them a lease. So they've run out of other options. There's really no other options for them. And I even called Matt today to see if he could give me any input as to why the realtor or broker and why they
Well, they can't come to a decision?
they just say that, oh yeah, we want to rent it to you, and then they just won't send the lease. So,
I don't know what's going on there, because there's times that I knew they were in active negotiations, and then I would see their marketing material out promoting the building still for rent. And so
that's why I was wondering if there was something that they were missing. It's very strange. Is there,
I don't want to assume, sometimes if they're not as comfortable with a tenant relationship, they let it drag out, hoping something else comes while they're in negotiation. I'm not suggesting that's good business practice, I just have seen it happen. It's unfortunate that some people do that, but
you have to assume that that's.
I don't get, that building set vacant long enough, I think they want to get in production.
So if you hear of anything else that might work for them,
Is the Shepley opportunity?
I think they're looking at that now. That's just so expected. Okay.
I wait long enough for one to be left. This is one.
All right, so if there's no other business, then we'll go ahead and go into our closed meeting. I need to read the closed meeting and certification.
Yes, ma'am.
Closed meeting, in accordance with the provisions of section 2.2-3711 and 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the Fusion County Economic Development Authority convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussion of a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in location or expanding its facilities in the community as permitted by section 2.2-3711A1. And then I have to read that when we are out.
Sorry.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to apologize, I'm going to another meeting.
Okay.
And so Todd's able hands will bring you up to speed on some of these projects. The one thing, and this while the door's still open, it's fine,